the course of the week or somewhere, and I was saying people do not understand what child abuse is. And believe me, child abuse is what you go through subconsciously or otherwise. But unfortunately, we have a system in the society that seems to condone perpetual abuse of our children in a manner that is undeterred, and we seem to legitimize the same. We legitimize the same because it has never come to our attention that we are indeed abusive. An abusive society it is. I'll give a case in point in regards to the education system. And I believe for sure it has been abusive. You become abusive to a child in a couple of forms. Number one, it could be physical, it could be psychological, it could be sexual, and it could be through neglect. And to some extent, we know much about sexual abuse. I don't want to talk about it. It is clear it has been punished severely and adequately by our constitution and the penal code. I thank every person who's given their input to that, and most especially the sex. I think there was in the past it was called was it a sex something act by Njoki Ndung'u that speaks, deeply and elaborately on issues of, defilement and all that. But I want to talk about physical abuse that most of us went through, if not everyone. But I bet every person who went to school when corporal punishment was a thing. That was physical abuse of children. I believe that most of us are not timid, are not confident, are scared to express themselves fully because of the fear that was instilled in them during that time. I also know most of us, or some of us, of our friends who dropped out of school and perhaps would have ended up being very useful people in the society. And ultimately, their lives became miserable. They indulged in drugs, they indulged in criminal because they were never given equal chance to be in school because teachers were monsters. And up to date, I am convinced that the teachers who taught us during the time that corporal punishment was allowed and legalized in Kenya should go to jail. They should be condemned. Equally, I want you to take a meticulous retrospect look and review the lives of the teachers who were quite dreaded during that time in terms of administration of corporal punishment, and tell me how their lives are. Tell me how their children are performing in life. And you'll know for sure that in life, there's a way that, you do some things and it comes back to you. It haunts you, whether directly or otherwise. But what I say is we went through a child abuse. It should be condemned. The other thing is look at even the kind of system of education that we introduced as an alternative to, like we were talking about failed public, what is this? Public
Education?
order.
Public order,
public order, yes, education. Taking children to boarding school. Tell me how justice, you take your kid who is 4 years, who is 5 years, 6 years, at primary school, you take them to boarding school. Why do you take them there? That is high level neglect. You don't know whether your child has eaten. You don't know whether they've been taken care of. You don't know whether they've showered. And again, it is under the hands of the people who have been allowed by law to administer corporal punishment. That is child abuse. The other thing is children wake up in the morning at 3, like you're saying. They are waking up at 5. They are showering in cold water. What do you call that? Child abuse. And perhaps that's why Justice for All, because of some of the reforms that came later, including abolition of corporal punishment, that we have a generation in terms of the Gen Z that seems to be alert, that seems to understand their rights, they seem to be unequivocal in their own expression, quite contrary to what we've done in the past. It is because we have come up with a generation in the past that are timid. You engage in a discussion with a human being today, you wonder whether they are, is it fear or they are totally ignorant? There are people who fear to express themselves because they don't want to appear stupid. And that is what the system of education has done perpetually to us. The other thing I want to say about the education system, what it has gone through in terms of reforms in Kenya, I don't want to talk much about the free education, but a couple of things. Yes, free education is being offered across the world, but I've heard Western say that if you need to make free education, you start from the very low level, perhaps elementary, all the way. And if I'll take comparison, I don't want to go to Zimbabwe like he does, because I think Zimbabwe is quite exemption, is quite an outlier on the wrong side for so many things, things that I don't want to discuss here right now. But I want to say, if I take comparison, especially in Canada, it is true that education is free in elementary all the way, I think, to high school, but after that you pay for it. The university education and tertiary education is paid for by the parents. The other thing is that I want to I've been critical. Sorry, I've been critical to the contributions that Mwai Kibaki did to our education system. And I believe there are a couple of things that he did wrong. Before that time, you remember during the public education, during the time of Moi, and the public hospital and the public universities education. I think there's some order that needs to be appreciated. That we didn't have so many public universities, but that did not say that we would not have created alternative for people who did not qualify for universities. But what Kibaki did, he came and opened an avenue for mushrooming of the public universities all over. And that did more harm to the education system than it was then. It became like, it became accessible to everybody. And ultimately, we even came up with duplication of the courses. I mean, you could have a university offer one course being split into 5 courses that are same but called different names. I've had things like there's finance engineering, some crazy naming of the names, but if you look at it, ultimately it opened a door for public university to start making money. You remember a time when if you could not be admitted to university by JAB, you could still access the same university, the same course if you paid for it. That did not do good to the education system. And if you look today, perhaps that's why we have people who do not really understand. People went through university courses that did not understand what they wanted to be in life. I met people and you would ask them, what is your course about? They are second, third year into the course. They would never realize what they want to be in life.
That is true. As you advance that, I'm not trying to stop you. Please don't lose your train of thought. I've in the past asked whether the universities in Kenya are the universities an extension of high school? Reason is I've had a chance to probably interact with students when they finish college, and I'm like, you went through university 4 years and now you are a graduate. So Yeah, truth. What you're saying is that there is a lot to be discussed, and I'm sure we'll get another time in the future to discuss extensively on that. But I agree with you. There is a lot of harm that was done on that. But proceed.
Thank you. And I appreciate that Matiang'i came and he tried to bring a lot of order. One of the things is that you remember there was the situation where there was commercialization of public universities. He stripped that off, and ultimately, of course, we had some you know complaint coming from public universities because that's for the first time they thought they will not be able to sustain some activities and also some quality. But ultimately, I think it's not any good because some problem was introduced by Kibaki as far as the public education system is concerned. Today, you find people who went through universities. They cannot tell them what they learned. They've never landed jobs within their line of training, and that is a tragedy. The other thing is the issue that Western has spoken about as far as mathematics is concerned. I will be of the opinion that we do not drop the importance of mathematics, and that it is not, dropped at a very early age. Perhaps you might want to predetermine the course that you want to do or you want to take in life, but ultimately we need to appreciate the importance of mathematics in day-to-day life, and also they are always, we want to offer latitude for versatility in life. This to say, you trained with this line of art, maybe a course in art, but perhaps you want to do business in areas where mathematics is intensively required, and you find it difficult. The other thing is that I know there are a lot of things that have happened in life, and the use of technology. During our time, during mathematics, we used the mathematical tables. Remember, just the other day, I was talking to my daughter, and she's a fourth grader. They use calculators. I never used a calculator until I was in university. And I would tell her, looking at things the way they are today, and the introduction of the artificial intelligence. I don't know what you guys be doing. Maybe you be training how to train the AI because it is virtually doing everything. The other thing is, on a light note, I have looked at some things that we overlook. I don't want to emphasize, I don't want this to be really taken with a lot of weight, but I have special interest in aviation. And Justice for All in 1983, perhaps most of us were not born. This 1983, Air Canada was involved in a not fatal accident because they were able, there were no fatalities. But what happened is a case of, we neglect things that are important in life. A plane leaves a place called Alberta, was supposed to go around to Quebec, then come back to Alberta through Toronto. But in Alberta, they discover that the fuel gauge was not working. This is what we call the flight 143. So the captain was told the gauge is not working, but they filled the tanks with the fuel. Went to Quebec. This was not communicated to the technicians you're fueling at Quebec. But the instructions were they needed to calculate the amount of fuel that was necessary to take them to Alberta. But the flight will go through Toronto, and they were told not to fly to fuel in Toronto. But what happened is they made miscalculations. Believe it or not, these people, this is a Boeing 767. The calculation of the fuel was supposed to be done in kgs. So what they did to determine the same was they should have converted the liters into kgs, but they did a conversion using the pounds. If you look at the conversion rate, a kg is perhaps a kg is more by about, is less by about, is it more? I think it's more by about 2 times. So a kg is less by 2 times. So what they did is they converted using the wrong conversion method, and the fuel they did was just a quarter of all they needed to take them through the journey. Imagine a plane losing power mid-air. They ended up with they call it the gleamy glider, where a glider machine, the pace of battle is on air, 41,000 miles, altitude, and it has no power. So the ground, but fortunately they were able to bring it down, and with some fatality, with some casualties here and there. But what I'm saying is there's some things we neglect in life, and mathematics is one thing that we need to take a lot of importance. And I've said about the versatility later in life when you have predetermined what you want to be, and perhaps because of you went through wrong education system like Kenya. And I mean, if you give that latitude again to escape from mathematics, believe it or not, most children who choose not to take it. I've had this kind of discussion with my daughter. She tells me mathematics is not the best thing, but I tell her she must do it. Thank you, Justice.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mofo.
Okay.
Justice, allow me to.
No, you're good.
Mofo has talked about mathematics, and I feel that he's actually suggesting that people should be forced to learn mathematics. I believe in academic freedom. I believe that our children don't have to be forced to do something that they don't want. Of course, giving them basic mathematics, them learning it is a great thing. But I believe that it is better to have few people who've learned mathematics and are going to apply it in their professional fields. I don't believe that we should have, say, 1,000 people who take mathematics but still don't understand mathematics. That is not quality. But anyway, allow me to bring in Mjadala. Mjadala, hello, how are you doing today? And please,
I feel like Mutai was attacking me for saying that, but it's okay. Bring Mjadala anyways.
No, it's okay. If you want to study mathematics, please do, but don't force it down the throat of other people.
Because there's a development that goes with that, and I don't want us to go into that because then it's gonna distort this conversation. Let's stick to the topic.
Has calculus helped you in life? Has calculus helped you in life?
I will talk about it later, not now. But let's proceed.
Thank you. I leave calculus to people who want to study calculus in the profession. Mjadala.
Thanks. Mjadala. Can you speak like Mjadala?
Kwanza nikuulize Justice, next time ukiniita jina lao fanye kabla uniite jina staki. Waache umambo. Mimi leo nataka nitoe maoni yangu kwa Kiswahili kwa sababu nimesema ya kwamba tukiwa katika shule na nataka niongee Kiswahili ambao watu wengi wataelewa. Kwa hivyo nitatumia sheng ama lugha ambayo Abdul anaweza kuelewa wakiwa na Mofo. Nataka nirudi pale when Western said vile alisema kwamba ati kuna some issues that we have fundamental with the education system. I want to give you folks a story. Nilikuwa natoka safari mahali nikapita hizo manchi za kina Justice, hizo makina Nyamira, hizo nikakata hivi nikikuja na hivi saa za Narok, hiyo barabara. Na nilikuwa natumia hizi matatu zinaitwa tablet. Wenye hawajui tablet, wewe ni sonko sana. Sasa hii inaitwa tablet na ni shuttle. It was about 4 a.m. ama 3 a.m. ama kama imeenda sana maybe 5. I want to say 5 ama 5:40 kitu, 5:30 kitu hapo. Tukapita mahali ambapo it's so dark. Yani there's no daybreak yet. Lakini tunapita mahali ingine dark sana, nikaona watu wawili dogo kabisa. Unajua ile age yenye bado uniform inakaanga bagi kushinda mtoto, hiyo age. So ako class 1, class 2, mimi sijui hizo ma grades zenyu. Mutai uta translate this into grades nikishamaliza. So class 1 ama class 2 ama kienda sana, bado ako class 3. Walikuwa wawili. Na walikuwa dugu, nikauliza dereva na huyu jamaa, nilikuwa nimeka kwa engine, matako ni moto, leo ni Friday bana, mimi nitakuwa nimerelax, shauri yenu kama mtakuwa serious. Sasa nimeka hapo katikati kwa engine juu, gari ni moto, na vile napeperushwa hiyo asubuhi na kimbiza huko mbaya sana. So sasa nikaona watu nikasema nikuuliza dereva, yani huyu mtoto kwa hii umri anaenda shuleni saa hii Hii hata ukiangalia barabara watu wazima ni watu wachache sana watu wanapeleka maziwa kwa mamikahawa ndo wameshaamka. Watu wengine wote hata wako barabarani. So I want to go.
Justice, are you getting him?
Sorry? Yeah, I can hear him. You cannot?
I can Jadala. Can you hear him?
Yeah, I can hear him.
Mwambie hiyo ni sawa kwa sababu tunasema hata leo.
No, you need to get this story. Okay, can you drop and then come right back, Mutai?
Me, I drop.
No. You're good. Mutai ndio tu pengine yake internet connection. You're good. You're good. Proceed. I'll get Mutai situated. Proceed.
Okay. Asante sana. So, it's like it's not daybreak yet. Hauoni mwangaza, bado gari natumia taa. So gari imemulika hivi ndo niko nao watoto, right? Alafu nikauliza dereva, yani hao watoto kwa hii umri unaonanga mara kadhaa wakiwa kwa hii barabara? Akasema hii ni kawaida, sasa siungoje tu. Tukaendesha kidogo hivi mbele kidogo, another group of children, very young. So number one issue, nataka kupatia Mo for his flowers for what he said about our role as people who have these uncles, we are caregivers of these kids, we are parents of these kids. It's absolutely ridiculous. Kama uko kwa hii space sasa unanisikia na mtoto wenu, mtoto wako, naibu binamu wako anaenda shuleni at 5 in the morning na kukanya kabisa. Enda uambie mtoto enda uambie baba yake caregiver wake awache hiyo ujinga. Hiyo ni ujinga. Mtoto mwenye bado anafaa kulala mpaka saa 2 mmemkaza kwa barabara at 5 anaenda shuleni. What is that? We have to change that culture. In fact, the government should step in. The government is ridiculous. This is one of the things that Roston was saying. The government education is a key pillar of any republic. Haiwezi kuwa kwamba the schools are just running amok. They put the fees where they want. They take kids to go back to school on Saturday. They get kids to go back on holiday. Even ni ujinga kama nini. Mtoto mwa class 2 or 3 ako kwa barabara at 5. If there's anyone in your family and your extended family that anaenda shuleni at 5, mtoto mdogo under the age of 5, shame on you na watu wenu bwana. Mimi sijali siwajui. Lakini kama mtoto anaenda shuleni that early, shame on you na watu wenu wote. Kwa sababu hivi ndio lazima tukatae. Ndio unapata mtoto by the time anafika class 8, again Mutai uta translate into CBC ama CTC. Anafika class 8 mtoto amechoka bana. Mtoto ameshachoka. By the time unafika pale umechoka, ni kama you've been working in the quarry. Unafika class 8 hata ujisikii kuna seku. Unaingia seku tena psychologically you're so beat. And you remember now, through the education system you're being told you're not sufficient. Very few people are told you're sufficient. Mwalimu akiangalia your work atasema the default, and people in education know this, the default is to critique, especially in the Kenya system. The default ni kucritique. Unakumbuka the people who are smart like me, who are in the category of their own. There was a category that I was put, me and the smart people. Mutai, you'll not relate, but we're very smart people. You expected to have 100 every time. Ukipata 98 ni kiboko. You get? So imagine ukipata 98 na unachapwa. So badala ya kupongezwa uambiwe wewe ni index number 1.5 kama mimi nilikuwa 1. So index number 1 wewe uko sawa. No. Unachapwa kwanza. Just as again, even you cannot relate. Unaona hiyo kuogopa math. But again, so you asked Mutai that what are some things that we can change? Number 1, I've given the number 1 thing. Number 1, we have to change that. Number 2, I don't know how we can make the government step in because it's ridiculous. Kuna rafiki yangu alikuwa anapigia story. They're being forced to pay money for an athletic complex that even our kids are not going to use. Can you imagine? Like umeongezwa fees na huyu mtoto wako ako already class 7 ama class 8 version yetu, mimi ndo najua ako class 7 ama class 8. So you're projecting that within 1.5 years ama 2 years mtoto wako hata yuko hiyo shule, and you're being forced to pay for this academic for athletic complex. You get? So those are the ridiculous things that parents are going through. This is bullying. You're literally being bullied into doing that. You don't have a choice. It's already been reflected in your fees. Whether you like it or not, it's been reflected in your fees. So how is that okay? You get? So even as we're blaming the government in terms of not intervening, even PTAs, parent teacher associations, need to have some teeth. Ubani, again, going back to us, we are not serious. Hata sisi unaenda pale kwa PTA umelala tu ama hata Wendy. Hata ujua na mitigi za ngapi, especially wanaume ni bure kabisa. Most guys don't even go. Si ukweli. Most dads or male caregivers don't even go to these meetings. Alafu unapata pale imepitishwa kitu kingine ya ujinga. Imepitishwa kitu kingine ya ujinga sana. So that's number 1. Number 2, parent and family level, we have to be serious. Number 2, pedagogy. Hii kufundisha. Wewe umekuwa na whole 3 months haujamaliza syllabus. 3 months haujamaliza syllabus. Now you want to take my PE? You get? Kwa sababu wewe na wewe siku yenye unafundisha huko month number 2, badala ufundishe vitu na will be effective in delivering your syllabus, uko naweka zabuni wasi mingi. Na kusumbua mtoto wa sijui chief, mtoto wa sijui politician unamsumbua, mtoto tajiri unamsumbua, mtoto maskini pia unamsumbua na ujinga zingine mingi. Wewe babako ni kulewa tu kwa estate. What's your problem? That's not your business. Unaanza kusumbua mtoto na kumbuli kwa sababu vitu kama hizo. You get? Nyinyi ndo mnatajiri, nyinyi ndo matajiri, nyinyi ndo mnaonu huku hivi, Sasa wewe usomagi. Unaona, you're wasting our time. Badala ya deliver the syllabus, you deliver the content, but now what does he is being taken. Kwa sababu mwalimu wa math hizi explain math in two sessions, anachukua PE. What does that do to the wellness of these kids? Kwa sababu hii PE is very, watu wenye create PE hauko wajinga. Wali create PE ndo watoto watu esteem, waenda wakimbia upige nduru nini, watu wakatiane huko chini ya miti kina Mutai wakatiane, all that stuff. Unajua, it's helpful, it's good for them. But mwalimu wa math akishaingia ashachukua hiyo time, sasa tena hakuna story. So mazee, hiyo session nyingine yenye inakuja next, umeboeka, hakuna kitu unasikia kwa sababu your mind is not, haijatoa steam. You get? So pedagogy, we also have to blame the teachers. Ndio maana sasa kuna sijui morning prep, evening prep. Hiyo yenye Western alikuwa anasema watoto wanatokaje shule saa 1 usiku shwali. Huyu ni mtoto mwenye niliwaambia alifika shuleni saa ngapi? Saa 11. Anatoka shuleni saa 2 huko usiku. What are we doing? What are we doing? Na CRT, now going to the next level, that is point number 3. Security is poor. So huyu mtoto mwenye alitoka 5 ni kuna giza. Usiku ni giza. Hakuna matako barabara. Guess what they're doing? They're walking home. Now let me talk about security. How many cases have we had of children who've been abducted between home and school or school and home and vice versa? How many do we know? How many do we know? And it's very, very depressing. And I'm going to mention it anyway because we have to shock people's psychology. Lazima ni kushock psychology wewe mzazi mwenye uko hapa caregiver ama uncle mwenye uko hapa. Mtoto wenye anashikwa na anashikwa cha nguvu. This is true, it's happening. So we have to also be truthful about this. So these are the consequences. The government is not governing school, is letting kids go to school too early and to leave school too late, and the school system doesn't even care. The headmaster doesn't even care. The PTA doesn't care that the safety of these kids matter. Alafu baadaye tunaanza kusema mtoto ameshikwa. Na nyinyi wenyewe mliomwacha mtoto akatoka usiku kwa nini bila mzazi wake kumchukua kwa mkono? Why? So let's be serious. Mtoto ameshikwa cha nguvu, sasa tena all of a sudden we start to yell at the police. Police wenyewe, the security is poor. The lighting is poor. Now let me even expand it further because this is the topic that we really have to diagnose it to the very, very core. Right? Lazima. Kwa sababu unapata kwamba sasa hata yule sasa mtoto ameachiliwa kaenda home, ukiangalia pale pia unaona kwamba mzazi hayuko. Kwa nini? Wengine sio kupenda kwao. Now let's again bring another layer. Sio kupenda kwake. Yeye mwenyewe amekwama kwa jam. Barabara ni mbaya. So you see how these things are interconnected. So then if we're going to talk about the matter of education, and this is the biggest topic that we're talking about as Kenyans today, and for the folks that know a little bit about me, this is something I'm very passionate about, right? So if we're going to talk about education, we have to really diagnose it and talk about it in the fullest. Hatuwezi kuongea juu hii mambo, hatuwezi. Alafu unapata kwamba mtu ametoka university unamwambia andike letter of purpose, unaona anaandika kitu kingine, anaandika when I woke up in the morning and the sun was shining, I'm very poor. Hizo ni nini na uko uni? Uko uni bado unaandika the sun was rising when you woke up, you're poor and the poverty is imefanyika nini? That's all you can say, honestly. Statement of purpose, you're still providing I was a pathfinder. No, I don't care about you being a pathfinder, Justice. Me, I want to hear substance from you and how you're going to solve the world. Asanteni. What's an possible?
I can sense violence. And guys, thank you, Mjadala, so much. And if you guys, whatever Western, Dr. Moff, before Western comes in, if you can agree, we can actually have a substantive day for talking about education and again propose these things forward, because you mentioned about the statement of purpose, which I've had to go through a lot, and I get so disappointed anyway, let me not go into that because I feel like we really, really have to come up with a day to address this thing and really empower people in here so that it's not just about talking for the sake of talking about the government, but talking about something that can make a difference. Let me bring in Weston before we go to the other speakers that haven't spoken. Weston, karibu. And thanks, guys, for really creating time to share. This is important. It is making a difference. I mean, naona kama trauma, I'm getting some healing.
Justice, before Weston comes in, as much as I have received strays from Jadala, I just wish that perhaps also in the next few days, we're going to have a space where we get to talk about children, given the fact that people in here just reproduce because they have the ability to reproduce and not the ability to take care of something. So I hope that you will include that. So thank you very much, Weston. You can come in.
Thanks, Mutai. Mutai and Justice, what I usually do is this. I can invoke Canada deliberately so. I can invoke the US, I can invoke the Scandinavian countries. It's always deliberate. It's never because there's order at the center and chaos on the periphery. It's not that. Where, our politicians and many elite in Africa define progress and development in terms of catching up with the US, catching up with Canada, and catching up with the Europe, which is a very reductive and retrogressive way of looking at things. Read your own environment, read your history, read your culture, define for yourself your objectives, your values, and map out how to realize them. But what we do in Kenya specifically is that there's a template from somewhere. So we can just take and fit in and we proceed. No, there is no such a thing. So when I invoke these countries, it's very deliberate. And I'm saying Zimbabwe is not an outlier. It's not. In fact, it's a tragic case in Africa that Zimbabwe is what it is. Because this was in the 80s and early to mid 90s. This was one of the foremost modern nation states in Africa. In fact, if you read books, people would say if you question the capacity of a black man to govern, you must go to Harare. You must go to Zimbabwe. Black people can actually govern and they can run things just as efficiently as anybody anywhere in the world. But here we are with a country that has collapsed. And there are reasons for that. We will not go there. But you can fault Mugabe for so many things, a lot of them. But his enduring legacy, and if you meet any Zimbabwean, irrespective of their political orientation, political views, political affiliation, they all are agreed that if there's something that Mugabe bequeathed them, it's education. That is his legacy. He rolled it out to all Zimbabweans, all of them. That's what he has. So even if you're to meet Zimbabweans, these Mutai, you call them blue collar, job holders, you'll be fascinated at how much sophisticated those Zimbabweans are. You will be fascinated how robust the Zimbabwean education system is. And therefore, when their country collapsed, it didn't really provide really serious challenges. They could easily exit the country and get to other places and find things to do and do them efficiently. Why? Because they had been equipped locally. And as we speak, even as badly as it is, economically and on many fronts, it's doing badly. Zimbabwe's education system is still, I think, among its top 5 in Africa. Can you imagine? If they had a functioning economy, a functioning country, they're still top 5 in Africa. They just as badly as they are. They even trump South Africa, a country that is like Africa's, number 1 economy. So it's not an outlier. It's actually a textbook study in what a politician can do in terms of when they focus on one thing and do it really well. Even when they're dead, long dead, those who survived them, who may have differed with them in one way or another, will still recognize that Mugabe was brutal. Mugabe stole elections. Mugabe presided over atrocities, ethnic cleansing, and what have you. But Mugabe presided over one of the most efficient education systems in Africa, if not in the world. And that legacy is there. It's there. You go to Harare, meet any Zimbabwean anywhere. So it's not an outlier. It's some country we can borrow from, in as much as things are not working. Justice and Mutai, I like what Mutai is saying. You see, when we talk about democracy, it's not just about picking candidates, participating in elections. This democracy thing must cascade throughout our lives. I've ever asked some teachers, for instance, what is the relevance of having compulsory questions? No, you are setting a question paper and then you put there, I don't know, question 1 compulsory. So I've asked, why do you put that question compulsory? Why do you do it? What do you want to achieve? There was no answer. The answer was that when they were in school,
I'll start giving degrees from this space after we are done. How do you guys reason like this?
So the answer was that when they were in school, they used to also face such questions. They were compulsory. But you see, with compulsory questions, your intention is to wrong-foot students. That can be the role of an examination, to wrong-foot a student, so that if you hall and you didn't prepare for that compulsory question, you are tossed. How can an exam be like that? How can it be like? But there are other things that you studied, which you know, but they didn't come because of the way the question paper was structured. So you walk out, you're so miserable, but really you're not a stupid person. It's just that the education system is so violent. It's out like just to ambush you. And that's why KCSE results year in, year out. Majority of students fail the exam. They do. In fact, we celebrate Matiang'i for presiding over something like that. The majority of students failed, didn't make it to university. Tell me, what is the relevance of an education system that takes pride in failing majority of the candidates? How can such a system even be tolerated, be even spoken about as if it's something to be proud of? Majority of students surely should do well if an education system is working. Well, we think the more they fall into the cracks, the more robust it is. No, it's not true. And therefore, mathematics, Mutai, coming to your intervention, look at it like this. Just look at it like this. Here is a student who is gifted in arts subjects, can do well in mathematics, but not extremely well. Now they want to do an arts-oriented course at university. It could be law, you name it. But the education system makes mathematics one of the compulsory subjects. Look at it like that. So this student realizes that their dream course may just slip through their fingers because of this one subject. That they are, no matter how hard they're trying, they're not just cracking it. And they may not meet the cluster points to get enrolled in that degree. And their worst fears are confirmed when the results are released. Yes, they didn't do as well as they expected to get the required cluster points to get into their dream course. Woe betide you if you come from a poor family, because the other option is to buy that course from a private university, or you can go abroad if your parent can afford. If they cannot afford, you're locked out. Now, when you're locked out from that course, Mutai, Justice, another child from a well-to-do family can afford that course and pay the market rate. are you seeing how this education system, the way it's structured, how it's entrenching classism, inequalities? Are you seeing how those inequalities are being reproduced? Are you seeing? So low degrees, they can pick a few who competitively qualified through the regular program. The other slots will be sold at the market rate. And who is going to buy them? Those who have got the money. Not necessarily those who have got the brains. Commodification of the education sector. Now, you've got a student who is good in sciences, physics, mathematics, chemistry. He's not interested in law. They are not interested in law. So they will ace those subjects, but they're not interested in law. But there was a student who is interested in law, is not oriented towards natural sciences, is locked out. The same thing, you can flip it. A student who is oriented towards natural sciences is made to read CRE or something. I know of a case, made to read CRE because you've enrolled in a school which is Catholic, Roman Catholic Church sponsored, so they tell you Christian religious education is compulsory. But these young people are not really oriented towards CRE, taking notes and whatever. They're into natural sciences. They struggle with that thing. That thing is their nightmare. But after they finish, they have nothing to do with CRE. They are not going into a Bible school or anything. They want to do their STEM subject. Now, Mutai, you are right. Why do you force students to do things that they cannot do effortlessly? Why do you do that? No, unless the education system is sadistic. Why do you do that? Look at the statistics, Mutai. 2020, KCSE. The number of students who scored a mean grade of E was 20,046. That's not a small number. 2021, it exponentially went up, 46,151, E mean grade. 2022 slightly down, but still high, 30,822. 2023 went up, 48,174. 2024 plateaued around the same, 48,333 mean grade of E. It means mathematics and what have you, those students scored E. And if you add those ones who scored D and what have you, these figures go up. Now, Mutai, tell me, if you force a student who is struggling with mathematics, what are you going to achieve? What you're going to achieve is this. You are going to have their certificate reading an E. I don't know what you would have achieved with that. Nothing more than that. Just as that is what we're going to achieve. If you force students who are not gifted, and it happens, to do those subjects, you are just going to stigmatize them. They will carry certificates with those demeaning grades. When there are other things they could do and really pass and go ahead and do subjects that they will not struggle to do. So, Mutai, when you talk about democracy, I agree with you. We must democratize our education. We have not done it. We still make people do things because we were made to do things when we were young, as principals, as policy makers. So we don't see anything wrong with forcing people to do things. But what is the end result? The end result is that, one, you entrench inequalities in the society and poverty because people are locked out of courses of their dreams. And when they are locked out, well, some may not even join university at all. They can't afford through the regular program. They can't afford through the self-sponsorship program. So what do? They fall into the cracks. Then people are traumatized, Mutai Justice, that you have to wake up very early in the morning, this early, you have to prepare for a particular course. It could be CRE, it could be mathematics, but you're struggling. That time you could dedicate to doing subjects that you can actually ace quite easily. And then your pathway to the degree that you want to study at the tertiary level is very clear. It's very clear, and you go ahead and do that. So I'm not so sure that we are interrogating these things the way they should be interrogated.
We definitely will. I promise we will get to like.
We have to.
Now I see why we have to. Because, you know, there are things, you even asked me, okay, let me say for those of us who used to set compulsory questions, I'm like, why was I doing this? You ask a question and I started laughing. I'm like, why was I doing it actually?
No, Justice, don't rely on watu wanatubeba ujinga. Ati sasa watu wasichukue marks. What are we talking about here? No, in fact, I'm actually very surprised that we're even going down that road. I thought you would have shut this a long time ago. Now, if you want to tell me that we can stop.
Come on, go ahead.
If you want to tell me that we can stop over specializing in math in high school, then yes, I get that.
I'm talking about compulsory questions. No, the one.
Yes, no.
Okay.
I want to get back to that too.
Okay.
As an educator, you know that now. I'm not saying that this is why some teachers do it. I know that the teachers and the education system in Kenya, like mocks, some questions are put there to fail students. I know that. I get that. But also in having compulsory questions, you have some uniformity in grading the students. Why are we debating this? This is really ridiculous, honestly. You have uniformity in testing certain parameters that you want to test in that test or in that exam. Are we really going down this road? I'm surprised because
probably
if let's say all of us, the 30 of us,
let's not go down that road today.
No, like I'm surprised if the 30 of us are doing, let's say, an essay exam or a literature exam, and there are 5 questions, and the teacher says, of these 5, you have to answer these 3. The reason you have to answer these 3 is because now of those 3, I'll grade you. There's a standard. There's things that I want to test, whether the school or the class has really understood. Why are we debating this?
No,
that's number one.
Let me ask you a personal question.
Go ahead.
Do you have compulsory questions right now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, then you can.
Yes, like when you're evaluating a curriculum, there are things that you have to measure. There are measurables that you have to measure within that curriculum, and you have to report them. So you cannot say that you can. No, come on. That's actually anyway.
Essentially, what we are saying is,
and then read my message. Go ahead and make sure you read my DM. But anyway,
okay, thank you.
Did you want to say something quickly so we can go back to the other guys, Lusisky and all that? Go ahead, Dr.
Exactly. Essentially,
we are going to have a good debate here because now I'm liking this more than even I did before. Go ahead.
I think what you're saying is you've taken your students through certain subject in terms of training. Then at comes the end of the semester, you give them a paper and a pen and tell them to write down questions for themselves within the subject and answer. That's what you're telling us. That's what is being proposed here. The other day, Justice, I was training somebody how to drive. And you know how we drive, right? The way we turn left, the way we turn right. So I want to show this guy whether he knows how to respond to the traffic lights when you're turning right, when you're turning left. I tell him, turn left, he turns right. This guy is paying per hour. So I told him, look here, man, I want to train you to drive well, right? If I tell you to take certain direction and a certain time, it is because I want to assess your competence and comprehension of the same instructions. If you do your own things, your time is running out, I'll take you, I drop you, you will not have learned anything. So it is essentially important that the trainer or the instructor understands what he wants his students to learn, and therefore he can choose or select questions for them. That's what it is.
Oh, thank you very much for I'm glad now we're getting into this debate here. But let me have, and thanks for that, all of you, for the submission. Please stay in there. Let's hear from Lusisky. I'm sure we will Academic City. Okay, yeah. Then we have, of course, Devi, and then we'll go to Tum after that. So let's continue having the debate here. And again, are we killing free education? And again, we also talking about our own experiences, what we have gone through, the traumas we've gone through. In this education system that we have gone through. Now,
before Lusisky comes in, I want to make sure that we also acknowledge what Mutai and Western was saying, though. The part they were saying about democratize or having a way of evaluating what people are good at, that is correct. That part, I don't think even I and Mofo disagree.
At what
but
age?
But that's the thing. That's where now the specialists and the people who run the education systems need to figure out. That's not our job. Like that's where it starts as early as possible. Really, from as early as possible, you get to have a system like Germany's where you identify people in their strength areas and put them in those tracks early. But in this group, at least to say that elementary maths, I'm not talking about zile zenye ziko na mistari huku kando. I'm saying elementary math. Hii +1 divide 2 nini hiyo bana, mkianza kusema pati sio lazima mutayo wewe. Next time usipewe course. Lusiski sema.
Conversation ziko moto sana. I hope everyone is getting me right.
Tunakusikia sawa kabisa.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I like the conversations. Like we are pretty much in agreement. We have the aspirations as young Kenyans to have things different. What's holding us back is allegiance we give to old systems. Everyone, at the end of it wants to reconcile with his preferred side of the old system. But we are pretty much in agreement in everything. I have 3 or 4 statements to make. I'll try to make them short. Number 1, I think education has become freer world over, but our government decides to make it more unaffordable. Education has become freer in every sense. Legislatively, many countries are trying to make education free up to the university level. And then, as a consequence of capitalistic interventions, we have, things like AI and, online courses, for example, like MOOCs, Massive Open Online Course in Coursera courses, offered by nearly every serious university in the world. There are myriad apps on Android, iOS, Huawei, or whatever platform you think of that are giving top-notch education that was not accessible up to even in the mid-2000s. So really, the trajectory is towards a freer access to knowledge. And it's a force that only a failing state can go against. So whereas at this time we expect our state to escalate towards free education, they are running towards unaffordability because they interpret the economics as a matter of, making money, to feel comfortable. It has never been about being comfortable. So it's really sad that in Kenya, we are becoming retrogressive. We are walking backwards. And, funny thing is that they're not charging, they're not charging these exorbitant fees in universities all the way to now. They want to bring it to primary to improve the system. It's not like they want teacher salaries to rise. They want, it's not like they're going to, improve educational facilities, talk about labs, libraries, games kits. It's not like, our kids in public schools are going to have computer labs or have laptops. So really, we want to offer archaic education at the most expensive cost. And for some people who benefited from subsidized education or free education or scholarships, you are condemned and you're judged by God and you're judged by yourself if you can support such a thing. Yeah, because put yourself in the shoes of this generation where already the cost of living is high, everything, the parents are pressed all over. And then they have to pay more for medical insurance and get still poorer services like they used to get through NHIF. They're gonna pay more for education and have to get poorer and less quality stuff. So you have to wake up on that. Yeah. So number 2, one of the ways of addressing our inequalities in education system is, first off, it's the prerogative of government to make sure education, things like educational welfare, is accessible. It's not Mwananchi's fault that when you score higher and you want a specialized school or a school that passes exam, you have to go to Alliance if you come from Nyanza, for example. The government ought to have devolved or democratized or federated education to make sure there is an alliance in every sub-location, you see, so that we reach a situation whereby we abolish boarding school, because boarding school breeds trauma. Boarding school breeds, it's part of the education apartheid system. It's also create a caste system, but the end result is provides parents with the young ones who are given to homosexuality, drugs, trauma. Well, of course, they come back. Pretty much a good number of boarding schools come back. The kids come back with A's, but they become dissociated. They become traumatized. We need to abolish boarding schools. Kids were meant to live in the society and blend. Education is not just hollowed somewhere like a monastery, like a Catholic monastery. Education is also societal in the sense that the kids also need some feedback from his surrounding. So the best place for a kid to be is within his community, or the presence of his.
Lewinsky, as you continue, I must be the outlier here. I went to boarding school since I was very young. I've never thought that was a bad experience for me. I don't feel traumatized from going to boarding school. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I looked forward to leaving home.
I went to boarding school.
I went to boarding school. You went to shitty school, so you're blaming boarding school, but you went to a shitty school, man.
Lusinski, I'm with you 100%. But anyway, answer Mjadala's question.
But you need to have the caveat that you went to a bad school. Why is it that? Because I hear this quite a bit, but I was not traumatized going to boarding school.
It's child development. It's child development, Mjadala.
The breadth of a man's wisdom is to empathize with an out of sample experience. Like we can't say that everything. You must have experienced everything for you to validate it.
I'm not. Again, you've misinterpreted what I just said. I said I must be an outlier. You not say that I'm refusing Nyamuku again through trauma. I'm validating you and led through trauma, but also we have to have a balanced discussion, because there are people who went to boarding school who did not have this experience, and that's okay.
It's okay. Granted, allow me to continue. Okay. Generally, categorizing schools into things like national, county, location, whatever the categories are nowadays, these are colonial caste system. This is apartheid 101. It doesn't speak to our constitutional aspirations of equality or fairness. You see, so there has to be something done to avoid this nonsense that there are certain exceptional intelligent students that they should be hollowed somewhere in Alliance, and that's beneficial to society. While top schools I know everywhere in the world are taking even C students from Kenya, so long as they score well on other metrics, or including extracurricular metrics. You could be a good athlete and you have C and you go to Harvard, and sometimes an A student is dropped in that strategy. So that's my point two. Number three, I think we have bastardized our education system. We have made it look like a religion or a church. Parents are lazy. They don't want to take part in the education system. They just want to and relax. They don't want to question what's going in school. For example, you find there's a lot of theft going in schools. A high school principal or a deputy principal, their salaries are less than, I think, a good number of us here in reality. But those people can build what you can't build in 10 years. So they engage in, it's pure pyramid scheme. It's a financial misappropriation scheme that has been going on. You find parents are asked to pay 10,000 for a trip for kids to go to Nairobi, to go to Nairobi. The kids could be coming maybe from as far-flung areas as maybe Meru, Western, Nyanza, whatever, and then they're going to Nairobi Park. You know, all of you who have been Nairobi Park is the most useless thing. The government has to repurpose it and repopulate it with the animals, give it some biodiversity. Otherwise, a dead thing. But then now kids pay 10,000 to go there. Entry for school kids in primaries, granted, is free. I don't know if they made a fee it's free, but for adults it's still around like 300 whatever. But you pay 10,000 and you don't question, and it's a day trip, So it's I don't know. We glorify, the way the church has taught us, the way the demonic church has taught us to glorify pastors. We've taken the same to school. We are glorifying teachers, so badly that we can't even question what's happening. So parents must, come up and take on what's happening. Otherwise, I would say that giving kids holiday trips and, some excursion or, experience is a family affair. It's not even, if it's in the school affair, it should be part of the, a program mandated by the Ministry of Education. And the Ministry of Education regulates everything about it. Otherwise, I would prefer that Kenya, instead of every school charging the fees that they feel they want and using them the way they want, we should have a consolidated fund. Every school should have account with the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Education, whatever configuration or habitation that is. And then the fees are paid to the government. Fees are not paid to Alliance. If Alliance wants to increase fees, they have to consult the Ministry of Education. They have to consult the parents. They have to consult the Ministry of Finance. What's your position on this? You see, so that we reduce this corruption. Because when principals are handling hundreds of millions, the education turns into an enterprise of buying exams and doing self-aggrandizing projects. You see, so our politicians put us through this bullshit while their kids go to well-behaved school where curricula is revised on a rolling basis, and the kid's potential is harnessed depending on his or her competency. But for us, by class 8 or whatever, is it now? Nowadays, class 7, a kid doesn't know. Even the teacher can't assess competence of this kid, whether he should be good in days or in that. So that ideal specialization is lost. No wonder we go to high school and do 13 subjects. Who does that? Countries we emulate, they go to schools less. Like, let's say most developed countries kids take half the time Kenyan kids go to school. We go to schools more, we work harder, we do more exams than them, we spend more time in schools than them. And then at the tail end of it, we require their companies to come build our railways, to come build our airports, to come build our systems. We import everything from them. So the productivity of our education is very low. If Germany can take half the time we spend in school.
Excuse me, Lisinski. Host ebu angalia network. Alafu, please land in 1 minute.
Okay, sure. So I think we like papers, we like certificates. We're not concerned of quality. If you are concerned of quality, we would be asking, why would I spend maybe 2 or more times in school as a Japanese? Do like 10 times more exams than a Japanese, and after the end of my life, have a Japanese diploma graduate come lecture me on how to implement a certain project. So should be concerned about the quality of education, and the quality is not in overburdening kids with too much courses, too much work, and too much subjects. You see, yeah. So in a way, I agree with academia. Extracurricular, activity should be taken into consideration in the modern world. How are we going to produce people like Flacco who are to finish their degrees and endure, teaching themselves multimedia editing and all that. The pain, the kid was never taught anything. He has to begins from scratch to become such a high-level comedian. Because in the world now, creative economy is paying. It's a source of, it's a huge component of GDP in serious countries. So things like comedy, maybe choreography, acting, athletics, we need to take them a bit more seriously. It can't just be about scoring A. And by the way, this A is just in Kenya. You look at the Japanese national exams and you wonder, where is one of the world's most advanced country in terms of engineering? Where is it? Why are the A's in China? Why do I go to a random village in Kenya and I find every child with an A? And why do I go to Japan and a B is glorified? You go to University of Tokyo. Why should that happen? You see? So we need to check the quality of our education system. As I wrap up, my last point, I want to say that there's been an ongoing debate that some people often dismiss. I don't know why they do so, but I want to warn people. Mathematics and language are the thing that sets species apart. Civilizations are graded on mathematics and language. How civilization performs in mathematics and language determine their destiny. That's why at the epic of human excellence, AI is more invested in language learning, because language is used to reveal more about our brain than anything. And mathematics or pattern recognition, is used to show how creative or how sophisticated we can be. Somebody may not understand humor or maybe appreciate history, but he can use pattern recognition to realize maybe new genomics, to have fruits that have more nutrients, to create fruits that have more nutrients, or maybe to create faster transportation systems that put our civilization forward. I'm not demeaning the arts courses. I love art, and I love humor, and I love comedy. But what I'm saying is, at the core of science has shown us at the core of human brain, all they see is mathematics and language. They see pattern, that the power to do pattern recognition, the power to arrange pattern, determines where that civilization is going. So much so that by 1920s, scientists in Europe had predicted that Japan, Taiwan, China.
I hate to this to you. I like people who listen. Zoe sasa umemaliza, kaa tu hapo tulie. Asante sana. I appreciate you so much. So now, as we continue, I think some things that you said there are very poignant, and you made very good points there. One I vehemently disagreed with, because I think that sometimes when we're having nuanced discussions like this, we have to nuance our thoughts. And especially if you start with the phrase, a measure of man's due nini, intellect's due nini, and then the next thing you say is a misinterpretation, that's just off. So ukisema big language kama hiyo, the thing you're going to say after that needs to be very precise. Karibu sana, tunapiga story hapa na we need to end this in the next 33 minutes, okay? So use your minutes judiciously. Tum, uko na kama dakika 4 hivi. Tum, karibu sana. Mambo Ted Dennis.
Okay, thanks Mjadala for this time. Okay, I want to be brief. First, as I clear my point, we have commercialized our education more than the learning materials that we need to prove to our knowledge. We have made education to be like learning materials. We are reading a lot without even getting that critical thinking. Meaning you can be learned, but you do not have that critical learning. You don't have that ideology. You don't have that skill of listening and interpreting. You might have read thousands of books, but you have that ability of knowledge, but you do not have wisdom. Because you might be having knowledge, but with no wisdom. So we need to apply in both sides, in either way. Point number 2, we need to prevent the modern conmanship. Education system, or education itself as a unit is one of conmanship of today, the modern colonial. Well, what am I trying to explain? We cannot be having specialization like awarding the best student to best school, and yet there is a person in rural is able to perform perfectly, but is being denied that denial to access to a better education. We need to end that system, and I think if I will ask you Justice for one more space, if we can have this thing so that we can discuss it perpendicularly and we get rid of this, because this thing we need to come to an end of it. Because there is no need, we can be preaching each and every day Jesus is coming, and yet the disciples are not listening. We need to make it clearly.
Doom, let me be clear. Let me put it on record. I want to make sure, because it's being recorded, what part do you want to discuss again later? And you're doing a good job.
Okay, my painful part is that we need to build a system of education whereby the ability of a student is being ranked there, and he or she is able to be graded according to ability. Not because you are coming from an alliance, because in alliance, I'm sure there are 12 students. I've been in alliance, I've been in Kapsabet Boys, I've been in State House Girls. So I've engaged with different students and different capabilities. If I can remember vividly, in Alliance High School, we had a physics contest. I was able to emerge number 10. And I was coming from an extra county school. But my pain it was, there are students that they were not in a position because they were realizing that how can you perform in this manner and yet you are coming from this school? And then in my school, I remember vividly, there were students who were thirsty. They were thirsty in English, in other languages, but they were not able to consider themselves in Kiswahili. Even that expression in mathematics. And then there is this thing, awarding system of students being awarded so that you can, it's like a motivational. But according to me, I had that privilege to enjoy school facilities, so that because of being a prize student, you are being told if you become number 1, number 2, will be taken to Nairobi. So Nairobi in those days, it was Nairobi, not today, whereby you will come and see things that they are not moving in direction. And then we have this ambition. There was this ambition whereby I was starting in school in Nandi County. So my ambition was I wanted to come to Nairobi and study in Nairobi so that I can get advanced. And that's my privilege. And lastly, my dream came true. And that was one of my ambitions. I used to hear that there are goals that you cannot achieve in certain level. But we had to break those barriers. And what am I trying to mean? We need to change that system. That system is even the aids of education, they are not learned. Some even put the papers. We know them. We need to address. We need not to spare anybody, by the way. We need to address individual by individual. Verify your papers so that you can be over the job. What I'm trying to mean is that there is a lot of hypocrisy in each and every one of us. If we can make this thing clear, we will make a better nation and we will achieve each and everything. And then the feeling of killing education, that free education. Even that person that is speaking like free education is not even a gift. I can give you a simple tip. Kuna wanafunzi wenye like wazazi wao lazima wause chang'aa ndio wapate hiyo mapato. So ukiona chief anaenda kwa hiyo poma, anaanza kukatakata vibuyu wa kutengeneza hiyo chang'aa, unaona mwanafunzi hatapata nini? Hatapata hiyo school fee. In the other way, I hear Papu Owino speaking. Papu Owino aliongea vizuri, alisema alikuwa anauza chang'aa ndio even apate kitu ya kukula, but alikuwa na akili. What am I trying to say? There is a lot of hypocrisy in education system and we need to come to an end of it. Asante.
Asante sana tu, umeongea vizuri. In fact, I want to thank the last two submitted, Dada Lusinski alikuwa amepanga mambo yake vizuri, because while we demand clear communication from our leaders. I think that we're doing a good thing exercising that in this space, and I like that we're creating that environment where people can judiciously present their thoughts in a well thought out manner like that. Lusinski and Toom, I thank you very much. And to Toom's point, I think we've stumbled on something here that, of course, there's already divides in the way we're thinking. And that's a good thing, because diversity in thought is good, and that's the only way that we can move forward. And really, if you think about it, yes, we talk about policy level stuff, but to me, there's some things that we can do at our own levels, meaning kama kuna mtoto kwenu katika jamii yenu ambaye anaenda shuleni saa 11 na bado kuna miaka sijui 5, bwana, nataka kuchuna sana, please follow the host ndio tukipiga hiyo story next time uko hapa na sisi. Now, I want to invite Mutai's favorite. In fact, let me give Mutai the opportunity to invite George. Kwa sababu Mutai akisikianga George akiongea na ni Gen Z ambaye ni 18 and a half, anaweweseka moyo, anasikia vizuri, sijui butterflies nafanya nini. Mutai, ita George basi.
Hi, Mjadala. Asante sana. I know that you want me to welcome George, and thank you. It's really a privilege given to invite someone who is actually very inspiring. According to me, he's very inspiring, and I believe that he's going to be a greater person. I want you guys to support him. So George, how are you doing today?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you. I'm doing great.
Okay, I'm happy to hear your voice. I am sure that you've actually heard from the space, and you can actually make your submission on anything that you would wish, and then I would engage you from then on.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so, I always have the privilege of having the most recent experience, when it comes to all these topics. And today, we're just talking about education. And I do have a lot to say about this because, okay, let me first start by saying that I finished my high school in 2023. That is like 1.5 years ago, something like that.
Oh dear Lord.
And there's one thing that I did learn after that period that I really want to share with you guys. So I came out of high school as a student, and I was privileged enough to go to, the way they are called the elite national schools. But something surprised me. I always had this dream of, studying outside the country. Now, after finishing high school, it was a whole new process for me to get that opportunity to fulfill this dream. But then there was like a hurdle between this moment and how I will get the opportunity to fulfill my dream. Now, there is this exam that I had to do for you to apply to American colleges. There's this exam called SAT. SAT is basically like a standard exam. It has math and reading. Only 2 sections. It's a 2-hour exam. Now, I was so surprised that what I got to, see when preparing for this exam and what I learned in high school were 2 different things. Remember, I was an A student, but then just the kind of math and English that I was now encountering, it was like a rocket science to me. That really showed me of how, the quality of our education. And it was not like we are doing some, tough math. It's only that the concepts were a bit, changed or something. Because, the quality of the 2 systems was like, evident that, okay, I'm not trying to be so biased by comparing our system to American, but then I'm just being realistic in this case. Now, I did come to realize that, okay, let me now go further. That was now the preparation phase. Of course, I did well in the exam. Now, the application phase, guys, let me tell you, the kind of people that you have to compete with out here, some of them are even younger than you, but whatever they have to show is far much greater than, what this older person, has to show. Now, I did realize that our education is more of quantitative rather than qualitative. Teenagers out here that are already doing research programs, they are doing internships, they have like a lot of study abroad opportunities. But then when it comes to Kenya, by the way, okay, let me just say I went to Mangu. Okay, so there's this whole concept of people thinking that the big schools, have the opportunities, all the opportunities, but then it's just more of whatever pressure that is inside there. This whole concept of I went to this place, I went to this place. There's so much pressure in that the students are being pressured to read aloud so that they can, uplift the name of the school. There's nothing like so big in those schools. So I was so surprised because now comparing myself to my peers out here, whatever I had experienced in my system or in my niche compared to what they have to show, it was like so different. And let me just say that I applied to 14 US colleges and I was like rejected by 13 of them. Okay, luckily I got into one, of which I'm not so sure I got into it. But then that really showed me that the all the hype over here is not all. There is so much that we still lack as an education system. We are so much into forcing people to fit in a mold rather than creating their own molds. It should
Let
be
me
all
ask you,
about,
George.
yeah.
So you said you applied to about 13 and you only got into one. Do you think it's because of the inadequacy of your schooling or there are other variables that led to your rejection?
Okay, let me say that. It's not actually the inadequacy of my schooling. Okay, whatever I had to show myself was my academics, right? Okay, I was a student. If you had to be gauged on that parameter, I should have gotten into almost all the schools. But then there is more to it. Out
Yeah.
here, people are looking at the co-curricular activities that you're engaged in. They are looking at the research projects that you've done, as a high school student. And when you look at our system or our niche, all these things are lacking. Even in those schools, those are alliance schools. There's nothing like research programs for high school students. There's no internship for high school students. So it can't be about, the fact that maybe I didn't do well. It's only that our system is not like favoring us compared to the people out there. And we are being judged almost on the same level. So there's nothing I can do about that. In that, whatever I experienced in my system, of course it was not my mistake. But then I really can't say that now because I didn't get the opportunities, now I should at least favor me. No, you have to be
Right.
gauged on the same parameters. So you really see how that is disadvantaging us, because you really
Do you
have
know
to.
do you know a big school that does internships?
In Kenya, okay, I don't know any public high school in Kenya, but
I
private.
want to tell you one that does.
Which one?
Starehe.
Where?
Starehe, ulienda kuangalia ndege badala ya kwenda kwa shule mzuri Starehe.
No,
Anyway, maliza na dakika moja
Unasikia watu wa
George.
Starehe?
that's a
Nawaonea
lie.
mbali.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
What's a lie, George?
Okay, what internship do they do? Okay, do you have to look for the internship for the school somehow provides that opportunity?
George, are you telling me it's a lie? And I'm alumni, bwana.
Okay.
How are you going to tell me it's a lie,
I-
bwana? Wacha upangwe. Kaa chini uende uangalie ndege upangwe. Hebu maliza na 1 minute.
I stand guided. It's fine. I wasn't aware. But then, okay, is there any other school rather than Starehe that you know of?
Hebu maliza point zako. We kaa chini umepangwa and ulienda kuangalia ndege. Maliza na 1 minute.
Okay. Let me finish. Okay, another thing that I wanted to talk about is the rot in our system. Mind you, in our high school, even to get a leadership position, some people had to pay for those positions, and it's so disappointing, the fact that even tribes were being looked at, mind you, and such things that are happening in our schools, are like denying people an equal opportunity. That equity is not there. So I do feel like our system is kinda is not yet to that level of a 21st century school, and that's the truth, and we really have to change things for us to maybe compete with people out here, because if it continues this way, I don't think we'll keep up with the world.
Before you land, because I know Mujadala wants to kick us out, let me use 15 seconds to ask you a question. So which college do you go to? If that's too personal, you don't have to answer. Which college did you go to?
Okay, I'm here to join, but
Oh, you're
I
here.
should
Okay,
be,
that's fine.
I should,
Fair enough. Mhm.
I should
Yeah.
be joining University of Wisconsin.
Okay, perfect. All right, thanks.
All right. Very well. Thank you, George. And just to clarify, the experience that the Starians do is a community service, which you can have an element of working for an organization as well, if you can have a philanthropic or a social element to it, George. So, but your larger point is dead on, and I want to agree with you unequivocally that the other experiences are important as well, and the well-roundedness is something that we need to have. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going very well, and you can hear we have very good submissions. And George, thank you very much for being our resident youngest Gen Z, and we welcome your thoughts and the way you again present them in very well natured manner. We appreciate it. Akademia, karibu sana wakili, na tunaenda tukimalizia tuko na 16 minutes peke yake, na nyinyi ni watu wangwana, hizi 16 minutes mzitumie vizuri. Abdul, unacheka nini? Nikitatua Akademia unaona kucheka. Anyway, karibu Akademia, tunaongea story education. Are we killing it? Umesikia mambo namna gani? Akademia, karibu. Oh, jamaa amelala. Abdullah, karibu. Sema.
Asante sana mjadala. You could have told George that there are so many activities at the Natulengi Zoo. Swimming is there, volleyball, football, cricket, all that. So
sikuwa nataka kummaliza kwa ground. Unajua I'm nice.
And then you say that they are more interested in personal interviews to get the students' characters alongside academic qualifications. That's key. And now moving forward. The education system in Kenya, I thought that with the CBC, I don't know what they have now called it, see something. It should be competency based. So the idea of doing 1 day or 1 week exam or 2 weeks, and then it's like, if you don't pass that exam, it means you are doomed unless you have a supportive background, whether take you to parallel or so. So it was more of exam oriented, so that whichever way you have to pass exam and then deal with the consequence thereafter. So people are not after knowledge as per se, but there are more of that knowledge just to pass exam. That's why people after Form 4, majority of them will not even remember the kind of subject, even the subject, but somebody cannot even explain certain basic things after a period of time. Like if you ask, and I've seen this even in the colleges, where is some interviews they come and they will ask very basic things that is like, this person, this is a class 8 or just basic things, and somebody will tell you like, the COG, which county do you find COG? And somebody will take you, COG is like either Muranga or something like Kirinyaga. People do not even understand those basic, but these are college students. So that tells you that there are certain, the kind of education that we have is not tailored towards the knowledge itself. Is about papers. And even at the college level, people will miss even course exams, not exam, but attending classes. But if you bring exam, they are busy. For them to pass exam is the key thing, not to sit in class. So sitting in class is a formality, but they are there to pass exam. So somebody will do all other things, bora amepita mtihani. Akipita mtihani, yeye anaenda mbele. Akipita mtihani, yeye anaenda mbele. That's why after that, for people who have not done courses where you go extra mile to even do a professional exam, or you are trained another way, then you realize that even the market is not that ready for them. So you have again to do other things alongside that, and then you can gain experience. But I think somebody from the university, once you're graduated, you should be competent enough to do certain things without being taken to probation for some period. But maybe because of what they offer in the university, so that when you go outside, you meet a different thing. So you have to learn. It's like you're in a new environment. So we are more of theory, and when you go to the field, it's more of practical. So that again is another challenge. But another challenge that we have that the government has addressed is that they are trying to address quality or equality, but equity they have failed, because if you were to test people on the basis of exam, it means you must ensure that the people you are giving this exam are of the same level. So somebody at Alliance who was admitted in Form 1 started interacting with the laboratory apparatus, chemistry and all that, then there is somebody, another school, just going to do the same exam. For the last 4 years, this person has never stepped even a laboratory room, yet they are going to do practical. So you realize that there are courses that some people will take advantage, like medicine and others. So it's very difficult to get a day school, a student from a day school getting good grades to be admitted to do medicine, not because they're cool, but because they lack that opportunity or the facilities in their school, so they were not able to get. And then you get a group of students who had almost everything at their disposal. And then you want to compare these people on the basis of one exam one day. I don't think that is fair. That's not fair. Yeah.
Academia, yo.
So, to me, that I think that's not fair.
Unfortunately, we're up against time. I know you're talking very well, but
Okay.
yeah, we have about 9 minutes. Yeah, no. Go ahead. You have another 1.5 minutes to learn because Aboko umeongea before, but we're up against time.
Also, but what I've realized of late is that apart from the facilities and how the schools are, you realize that the admission today is fair, so that it is the system that will give that if you pass whether you're from day school or national school or whichever school, you will just get admitted based on your performance. But previously, the people who got good grades were forced not to join the system just because you don't come from a school that is exposed. So you got maybe A in a day school, and somebody gets the same A from Alliance or Stare or Mango or Lenana. So a person from Lenana is likely to be admitted to do medicine than somebody from the village with the same grade. And that used to block many people some years back. But of this system, it is now open, and it is very fair that whatever grade you get, the system will automatically give you that course that you need. I think for that is fair. But moving into the quality, we need to improve in the quality so that it becomes equitable to everybody else. Thank you.
Go ahead and take another 40 seconds to give us your last word.
Oh, my last word. Let me donate that last word to Western.
All right, very well. I'll give him an extension of 40 seconds when his time comes. Sam, habari, siku ya leo umetupotea sana, mambo?
Niko kwa mjadala, nimekuwa nikisikiza hapo chini tu. Sasa I have sorry?
No, go ahead, sorry.
I've basically come kutetea Wakenya sana. I've heard people say that the quality of education that you are getting is shaky or haieleweki. Kenyans are tough people. If you meet Kenyans out here, those guys are teaching these kids out here as graduate assistants, research assistants, associate professors. These guys are doing massive things out here. they only sometimes at some level they lacked an opportunity to put their hands on some of these instruments that these people have. But the mental ability to process information, to put things together and align them to the goal that an institution has, they're top notch. I have no doubt in Kenyans. The problem is the investment that we put in our schools is below what we deserve as a people. For example, how an education system is organized, comparatively speaking, is that resources, for example, if you, let me speak to, for example, the junior secondary school. The presidential party came up with a resolution that let it be domiciled in primary school when it was actually meant to be domiciled in high school. Because of high schools have better facilities, they have the teachers, and if they wanted money, they will not have to come up with new structures to accommodate them. But instead, due to government influence, they domiciled that in primary school. They were looking at the cost. If I'm giving capitation, how much money do I give to a primary school kid, and how much am I supposed to give to secondary school kid? So due to capitation, they domiciled that in primary school, and that is where the problem is. Problem in school, then number two, they had to post every single teacher to these institutions to cover all those, to cover the curriculum, and they had to borrow primary school teachers who are good, but maybe they are not exposed to the content that these kids were supposed to be exposed to. So that was the discrepancy. But Kenyans have put themselves forward. Against all odds, people still fight their way up and they do stellar things. I will always respect Kenyans by all means. Let me stop there because of time.
Nashukuru sana Sam. Remember when our resident Gen Z, what's his name, George, was submitting, I asked him if he thought that that was because of the inadequacy in his schooling, and he cleared that out because of precisely what you said. In my understanding or my interactions globally, I've found that Kenyans are very brilliant. Just like the Zimbabweans that Western was saying. Western was actually correct, factual on that. Zimbabweans are also very sharp. Kenyans are also very, very sharp. So, and our education system is nothing to play with. I'm yet to see the CDC people mutai ndo evidence yenye yuko hapa, na pia yeye sio mbaya sana. Kwa hivyo, I don't think that we're terribly falling behind. So Sam, thank you for that balance of our conscience, collective conscience. Abdullahi hujaongea sana. Abdullah, pole. Sijui kwa nini watu wanashindanga wakiitwa Abdullahi. Abdullah, karibu sana. We nipe yako ya mwisho.
Okay, thank you so much. And there's something I want to say, maybe not so much out of topic, but it's always maybe a wild idea that I always have is that I've always thought that we can restructure our help so that we can put on the Youth Enterprise Fund, Uwezo Fund, and some part of wealth and give graduates startup grants as they graduate. I've always thought of that, because this will even solve our employment, and it will also boost our economy. Because right now there is Youth Enterprise Funds and there is Uwezo Fund, but you cannot get it because of bureaucracy. And even the Youth Enterprise Funds, they are currently using it to fund what we called modern day slave trade to Saudi Arabia. They're using it right now. You have to apply for it. I think they are the ones that are using it for your flight. So that's my submission, and I end.
Wow. Abdullah, I think umekana mimi enough sasa siku hizo umenijua. Ungeendelea hivi ningekugonga hiyo kichwa yako. Lakini you're my brother and I love you and I like it that you're here. So asante sana. Mofo, now I want to give you this opportunity. Just kidding. Mofo sema yako ya mwisho.
Thank you, Mjadala. Mjadala, I think I want to emphasize what has been echoed by majority of us. The much as we are talking about education, access to the same, we need to emphasize the need to have it in turn. We need to have quality education. It does not help to take people through rigorous education system that ultimately turns them to people who are literate but not competent to solve day-to-day problems. The other thing is about equality in terms of access to the same. I believe in so many ways, and going by my own experience, most of us suffered a lot of disadvantage because we went through small schools for lack of better words, or schools that didn't have names. And perhaps one day, Justice, as we advance this kind of conversation, I would, like to listen to people who went to the big schools and tell us, clearly and openly, how many questions that came in the final exams, and in this case, I'm talking national examination in KCSE, for example. How many questions did you revise a week before?
Umeanza ovyo bana.
No, listen to me. A week before the exams, and they clearly came as it had been described or as being revised by your teachers. And so that's why we're talking about the issue of inequality and these disadvantages, the people who went to school, the schools that didn't have names, like I said. But again, I thank Matiang'i because he came and he tried to streamline order and bring in order. It is unfortunate that immediately after Matiang'i left, we have seen more students scoring A. To me, it is egregious and something is cooking. Thank you.
Asante sana. Shida tu yenye niko nayo ni hiyo story ya big schools, kwa sababu ulisikia nilisoma big school. Ngoja kwanza nikwambie kuna story hapa. George, kwanza umaliza ndawapigia story. George, sema na don't say anything about your age, kwa sababu kila saa ukianza kuongea I'm 19, I'm 17 and a half, I did exams latest. Si uongee bwana bila kusema age. Karibu George.
Okay, so I won't say that this time, but okay. Let me just react to the question someone has asked right before me very fast. That's the only thing I'll say. So personally, I'd say I actually never saw my teachers for the last almost a month before KCSE. So I don't understand the whole idea of the questions that I saw in the exams that we had revised before. So I don't know. Maybe you can tell us, but we didn't experience that.
You came after Matiang'i. You came after Matiang'i, and that gives the difference.
Oh, okay.
Haya, asante George. Mwambie ulikuwa unaguzaguza ndege, si mambo na sijui kufundishwa kurevise. But I came before Matiang'i Mofo, and I have a story. So people had this understanding that nilishawambia shule yangu tulikuwa tunaibiwa mtihani, si ndio? So me and my friend, his name is Olago. Acha nikucheck. Me and my friend Olago decided to make money out of this assumption yenye watu walisomea polling station kama Mofo head. So kulikuwa na watu walikujanga fanki wakatupata hapo karibu na gate, wakasema ni haji mmeshapewa ile kitu. Ile kitu ni nini? Wakasema si mnapewa kwa mwa Kenya 1 week before. Nikasema actually you know what, mimi na Olago tukaangalia tukasema hapa kuna vile tunaweza pata mkate, pesa ya mkate. Tukasema you know what, ndio tumepewa. So we used to have lunchtime exams. Kila saa lunchtime ukishamaliza kula maro ni exam. Sawa. Tukachukua exam zingine zenye hata zina vile iko. Hakuna kitu, ni exam tu zenye zilikuwa zimefanywa for lunchtime. Tukaenda tukazichukua, tukazichapisha, tukawaambia kesho. Moja weekend tulikuwa tunaenda nje vile tunataka, liberal, tunaenda tao na home uniform, home school. Najua hizi ni vitu mofu wao uelewi. But tunaenda na nguo za home, tunaenda nazo tao. So, tukakutana naye kwa gate. Tukawambia kila paper ni tukampatia 7 papers, zingine hata repetition nini, kwa sababu ilikuwa ni deal inafanywa haraka pale karibu na lami. Sasa hakuna kukaa sana, tunakwambia hizi vitu ni paper 7, zingine zimerepetiwa huko ndani. Tukampatia brown envelope, akatukanja chapa, tukaishia. Hakuna lika hata moja liko kwa hizo paper, ni paper za lunchtime. So tuanze hiyo mofo, hizo ni hearsay. Nyinyi wenye mko huko hivyo nje, mko kwa mashule zingine zenye hata zina mabasi, mko na ujinga za kufikiria shule kubwa ziko na lika. Pia watu wanapata hizo kwa hizo mashule tu bado. So nyinyi watu wenye hamna mabasi za blue za sisembeje hata zilikuwa za yellow, zilikuwa tu mabasi tu. So nyinyi hamna, sasa mnaona uwivu mingi, hakuna fangizi na kuja. Anyway, my last word. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all. I do appreciate you folks allowing me to be one of the regular co-hosts here, resident co-hosts, and I thank you so much. I know that again, without all of you here, we'll just be hanging out with the co-hosts and having a podcast. Especially, I want to give thanks to the regulars. Because Abdullah, Mofo, George, Weston, Kennedy, when he's here, those are regular panelists. And, Lusinski, Pia, Anakujagapa. So those people, I've mentioned them very kindly because they always come up here and give us their thoughts on every matter. And we appreciate it. Today, we've talked about education, and we all know the current issues of education. And we stumbled on this matter because we all know that right now, the status of the education in Kenya is really not good. And other than that, I also want to thank the people who regularly come here to listen. Baba huyu mwenye akona tiki ya sio Baba Rao, huyu baba mwenye akona tiki ya blue, ukiangalia hapo Kadosh. Owino napenda sana kwamba uko hapo, asante sana, it's good to see you. Rich pia na kuanga hapa hivi kwa panel, asante sana. Ohoto pia, Calvin Okoth, huyu ni mtu wangu pia na kujanga hapa kutusikia. Tabs pia na kuaga hapa, hakuna Sara. I'm mentioning you people, na nisipokutaja jina usipate vibaya, mushike vibaya, ni kwa sababu tu naenda haraka kwa sababu mtai ataniua nisipompatia fursa ya pia kusema kwaheri. Nawashukuru sana wote na Mungu awajalie, na weekend hii I want to really advise you, number 1, don't drink and drive. Number 2, don't use too much of your money and give it to the pubs. Number 3, Monday kama mtoto wenyewe anaendanga shule 5 am, ambia the person who's responsible for them awache hiyo mchezo, mtoto alale kwanza. Asanteni sana.
Asante sana Mjadala. You have given us an assignment to go and tell these teachers that they don't have to burden our kids with a lot of work unnecessarily. So I think today we've actually exhausted a lot about education, but I still feel that most of us have lived experience that you wish to share, and we hope to talk about them in many other more spaces that we're going to have. I believe that when we have quality education, it does not just create the constitution of a child, but it builds the character of this same child. And that is why we must protect our public institutions. We must advocate for a holistic education, not just quality. It has to be holistic. If our kid is supposed to study a lot of these units, then they must be broad. They don't have to be English, Arts, Kiswahili, CRE, and all that. No, we want our kids to also study arts and a lot of other things that we haven't thought about. And I feel that we're going to have this in future if we have leaders who are very intentional and deliberate about making a greater people who are invested in not just education but knowledge. Thank you very much for attending this space. I hope that you're well wherever you are. I do not know whether your mental health is well, but we had started this space by asking that question too. How good is your mental health? And this space today, we were playing BN song, and I hope that all of you would go and play it. We're not promoting BN, we're just promoting the spirit that is in this space. So asanteni sana, welcome again. I'm not going to touch your name because Mjadala had already said, but karibuni, and next time perhaps you can always come to the speaker panel and be part of the panel so that you get to contribute more and more. Asanteni sana, you're the best, and remember that your clarity, your truth will always guide you to the light. Thank you. Have a great night for those who are going to sleep now. Justice.
Thank you very much. Today was really nice because I felt like people were very deliberate, intentional, relaxed, fun, but also as deep in their submissions as we've always done in this space, which I really appreciate all of you for always creating time. We're trying to create a space that's gonna continue talking about things that affect the society, but also without going into too much banter that does sometimes get exhaust us. When you need a break to take to have a time to have banter, you can try other spaces. plenty of them. Sometimes I go into as a listener, they're kind of draining, but they probably might be good. So this weekend we'll probably take a break from us, as the team here. And then we resume next week. The goal and the plan for as we get into Mwezi wa Nane is to completely rebrand the space, probably with a better name, better logo, better way of doing things, in a way that we are going to be a little bit more organized, in a way that we do this in a topical way that's going to growing. And the persons like George, don't let Mjadala bully you. Very proud of you. And again, get my DM.
You're going to give people the wrong impression.
No, he knows it's on a light note. He knows that.
Yeah. George knows I'm very proud of him. And he knows anajua banter.
He knows. That's what I'm saying. Our banter inajua sio zile za matusi. Banter zetu ni hapa tu za wazima. The other thing I want to say that, especially on education, I'm one of those people who repeatedly, even in the submissions, public participation, I said there was nothing wrong with the 844. All that we lacked was probably the resourcing it and maybe change a little bit of additional things to the curriculum and all that. So this whole nonsense that people took us through, we'll talk about when we have another space for this. The other thing I wanted to make a comment is that I'm also in that school of thought that probably I'm against the whole thing of taking anybody who is a minor to a boarding school, separate them from parents for that long, that you come home. Of course, we have some exceptions like Mjadala, which is fine. But again, he also understands that that's not the representative of exactly the experiences people have gone through. I've seen so much anxieties that people develop because of such kind of separation from parents, from their societies at a very young age. You would take kids to school and they're crying as you drop them off. I mean, I witnessed that with my nephews, even after I pleaded with their parents not to do that. But you know what? They wanted good grades. And those are the schools that had the resources to give them the grades. Number two, they wanted time to go to work because they kept being transferred from here and there. An issue that I have a problem with the way we do things in Kenya without regard to families. You get transferred today, you move with your kids. You get transferred, so they don't get to form. So education gets threatened that way. The other part that I know is that I am not against my friend Mutai and Mjadala, and I think Western about the democracy in education. But on the part of math, we might be among the few ones to bring that up because globally, I'm talking about all over the world, there is nobody who has math as optional for any age. Hang on a second.
Me I'm on your side bana. Ni Mutai na yule mlevi
Mutai,
mwingine walikuwa side ya no math.
Yeah, any age under 16. Though we have only 5 very developed countries that have about 16 and up, and yet, in fact, even in those, there's a lot of variations. There are only 5 actually, and they are like maybe even the one that is counted in there, like the US, it doesn't have that per se. Though there's a caveat on that. So what I'm telling you is that if we want to explore this and reinvent it, and there are reasons for it, of course, so we can talk about it. Reason is just the way ukitaja baba vibaya nasikia vibaya, mi ukitaja hesabu vibaya, you really touched me. So please, don't touch my math, don't touch baba. So we will be good friends if you do this. If Baba runs for president 2027, I'm voting for him. Anyway, please, that's the only way I can banter you guys. But thank you.
Nikuulize host.
Yeah.
Ulisoma shule kubwa ama shule yenye iko napewa lika kama mofo?
No, mimi niliuziwa leakage from mtu wa Starehe pia. And it didn't work. No, for it. Tulikuwa, I was in a St. Paul's Gekano.
Really?
Kisinda. Niliuziwa, yes. No. Sio Starehe. Alikuwa na msichana mwingine hapo karibu na factory ya chai karibu na shule. So this girl alikuwa Alliance, akakuja akatuuzia leakage. I remember. So alituuzia hiyo leakage na hiyo kitu. I think one of the papers yenye alituuzia geography, hata niko na nightmare mpaka leo because I failed that thing. Na hiyo ndio one of the leakage yenye tuliuziwa na huyu msichana wa Alliance. So that thing did not work. But much later as a teacher, and of course I did. By the way, remember, I think Mjadala knows that I started teaching in 02. 2002 was on teaching high school before Mutai was born. So please don't play with me. So
I'm just
and by the way, I taught in a girls' school. By the way, so
haya Mutai na wewe polling station ama shule kubwa ya Alika?
polling station.
Okay, hata una sound kama polling station. Funga mic.
I'm telling you.
How did you come up with this name, polling station? You just
make that up? Wewe kusikia mangu wote wana vote huko?
No, I've never heard of that.
Correct. Zile zenye watu wana vote ni zile zenye ziko na majina za hizo Mageshagi, sijui Nyamira High, vitu kama hizo. Ndio watu wana vote huko.
Na hata unapata classes hazina milango, si ndio?
Correct.
Thank you guys.
You guys are joking. You guys are joking if these are serious things bana. Watoto wanasoma na baridi.
Wacha wakule baridi. Baridi ni mzuri, wasilale ovyo ovyo. Kukikuwa na joto kidogo tu hivi kulala na kusweat huko ndani unaingia kuna nuka sweat. Hizo mashule kina Mofo walisomea. Sitaki mimi.
Let justice bana land. Justice. Are you reopening the space or closing?
Justice amepotea. Amesikia shuleni polling station ameishia, aliuziwa. Imagine aliuziwa Mwakenya na msichana anafanya kazi kwa majani.
Unajua yeye alisoma Nyaribari no.
Imagine them, hata asomi Alliance, anasoma karibu na Alliance amemuzia. I need to go. Sijui amepotea wapi. Mmenimaliza. Mofo, mimi nataka kuongea Kiswahili. Mofo, hebu fungua mic. Wacha tuendelee. Mofo atafunga akifunga. Mofo, hebu fungua mic. Hebu ongea Kiswahili. Ongea Kiswahili, acha kucheka nini.
You know, Mjadala. I need to make a confession. So I went to this. I went to this school. First of all, when you talk about the classes of schools, it was a school where we kept animals. In this case, the cattle. So they would graze around. So we had the doors that were never locked. So much often we would find some cow dungs, along the hallway. You know what that means, right? So that besides that, so I came from a primary school where we didn't converse much in Swahili, but we wrote very good insha. You know, the insha by this guy, or the guy who died on the street, who found died.
Oh, Ken
Walibora.
Ken Walibora. Oh my God.
Yeah. The Swahili.
Sasa ulikuwa unaandika insha kama Ken, acha ujinga. Kama sasa huwezi kuongea Kiswahili unajifanya nini ati Ken Walibora?
I'll speak. So what happened is, when I was in class 8, a friend of mine brought me this kitabu by Ken Walibora, and I ended up doing it as a set book in Form 4. So I carried those medali, those big words. So I would write very good Swahili. Unfortunately, when I went to high school, I realized I knew Swahili, written Swahili, but I didn't know spoken Swahili. I struggled. So ultimately, people there never spoke much Swahili, much English. So I was outstanding in speaking English and avoided much of speaking Swahili. Anyway, I did my Form 4, and I can tell you 50% of the syllabus in Form 4 was never covered. Gracious story. It's so sad. It's too bad. When you talk about...
Wewe basi hizi street unakulaje? Unakula kwa rehema ya Mungu kwa sababu kama syllabus ya Form 4 kumalizwa.
You know what? I got an A-.
Hizo ndo sasa zenye Matiang'i alikataa. Ati ulipata A-. Unapata je A- unajua fundisho?
I'm telling you, and nobody, I didn't have access to any single question. When I talk about people coming from big names, big names.
Hapana, let me tell you how it happened. Nyinyi ni wale wenye system ilikupatia A- by mistake. Rudisha hiyo A-.
And stealing our chances. That's where the equality is.
Dr. Mofo.
Yep.
Nataka uniambie maana ya muhimu. Ndo nijue ulipata A-. Muhimu ni
nini? Muhimu. Naweza ongea Swahili. Muhimu is it the importance?
Nasema maana ya mofimu. Si muhimu, maana ya mofimu.
Muhimu, I don't know. Muhimu.
No, because you don't have that word in your vocabulary, so you cannot even hear it. That's a word I have no understanding of what it means. What are you saying, Mutai? What?
Now we know use A minor bana ilikuwa zile za kina.
Exactly. System error. Ndizo mwenye alikuwa na mapepa zake alitupa hivi kwa steps. Yake kalanda hapa juu akapewa A-.
No, I believe I deserved because I really read. But anyway, before Justice got interrupted, there's something he was talking about his experience with the leakages as a teacher. I would want to listen to that.
Oh, no. I think the experience I had as a teacher is that the principal kwa hiyo shule nilikuwa nafunza made sure that some of the teachers walikuwa locked up in another place. So the principal was the lady, ended up paying, of course, the supervisor and the lecturers so that the teachers can do the papers very quickly, and then of course distributing the classes. And I witnessed that being done. For me,
thank you, Jeff.
Because I've never thought, one of the reasons why I was kicked after teaching up to Form 4 is that I've never believed students should be given those tough exams, then is that combined from Form 1 to Form 4. So I remember one time, oh shoot, nobody's listening down there. Okay, I remember one time niliamua tu like I can do this paper for these kids because me nimewafunza, but me mwenyewe have to refer to a book to remember, because just from Form 1 to Form 4, how do you expect one brain to remember all these things? Nikasema ni ujinga.
When a weak link.
By the way,
Mofa aseme nini? Alikuwa nasoma kwa shule yenye mang'ombe zinakunia kwa darasa, hizo atatuambia nini hapo?
You had to leo. Man, Mujal, I wish you were nearby city. Today we would have go out to play pool. Because I'm like, I feel like today you're in good mood.
This is me before setting.
And there's something else I want you guys to note about Mjadala. Have you noted Mjadala is a little confrontational, is aggressive? These are characters These are characters of students who were abused subconsciously.
Hadi sasa sikia, hadi sasa mtu mwenye hata hizi kuongea Kiswahili ya shengi ya banta anataka kunipanda na Kizungu. Bana unijui bana. Wewe banta kina Mutai, hiyo ndo ligi yako. You don't have the range and the depth ya kunibanta.
Mutai, can you imagine this our banta in this space? Hiyo ndio tunaita banta. Wacha enda groups zinakuwa na banta. I think tumezeeka. Mjadala, wacha tukubali tu.
And something else Mjadala. Do I tell you something?
Endelea daktari.
Before I drop you guys.
Do I tell you something, Mjadala? I learned something from my daughter. That there was a subject in mathematics that was called James. What was it? Jimmy? It's called geometry. You know what's geometry? In mathematics?
What is geometry?
No, is that? Oh yeah. So I was wondering, is that geometry or something? I don't know. I
just felt like I'm a stupid person. We searched for it. We searched for it in Google, and it gave the word geometry. Geometria. I'd never had something like that in my life.
Oh, geometry. Oh,
wait. Wait. So are you asking me because it's a standalone subject, or it's something new you've learned today?
No, it's not. What I'm saying is there are things we just pronounced our own ways, and we felt exonerated up to date, but indeed we did them wrong way.
So you're saying that geometry is supposed to be pronounced geometria?
Geometria.
Hakuna bana, hiyo ni jaba. Wewe na dota yako muitite geometria. Sisi taita geometry.
I'm gonna share with this to you, Justice.
Yeah, because that's fun to know.
Oh man, it's just something.
Let me ask you, globally inaitwa geometry. Sasa globally tumekoti pronounce the wrong way. Wewe na mtoto wako ndo mnaipronounce the right way.
Because the other guys, you guys are Mjadala, where you call geometry. You have to like take that geography, geometry, right? So I don't know. This is new. Okay. We live and learn, I guess.
Just do a search on Google verbally. It's gonna give you the same word.
Okay. Wow. Good.
Lusinski anarudi hapa, mimi wacha niishie kwa sababu nilimweka block before. Wacha niende nitukane. Wacha niepe.
Yeah, but Mujadala, do you know why I exclaimed when Mofa was bringing up the Ken Walibora's story?
No.
Because when he was graduating from Ohio State, I attended his graduation, and my apartment was like 5 minute walking. We went downtown, walking distance. So we did attend as Kenyans because of this guy, because we knew his book. So it was such an excitement. So when he passed, actually, we had to do a memorial.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how bad it was. It was just right here in Columbus. Was
Pole. So unamjua kwa sababu ulikuwa unakaa karibu na kwenye aligraduate, lakini mimi namjua kwa sababu anaongea Kiswahili kama mimi. Okay, sawa.
Right. But also the book. Remember was it Sikunjema thing book?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting one. Though it had a lot of methali, but it was an interesting book.
Shukrani. I have to go. Thank you very much.
You take care of yourself.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Let you guys get some rest. Enjoy your weekend. I'd love to catch up, Tena, please.